What if there is a resource that is plentiful on Earth, but rare to non-existent in the rest of the galaxy outside of artificial generation? When the Gurn starship, Tidal Slime, exited faster than light, FTL, in the human home system, Tshirt reached a scaly arm over and turned up the temperature to a more work-to-be-done setting. Some Gurn wore temperature-regulating suits, but Tshirt, as this trip's designated ambassador to Earth, had his own chambers that were way more comfortable than the suits. He would probably have to wear a suit planetside, though. The Gurn were not a far-flung species by galactic standards, having just a home world, a few colony worlds, and another handful of worlds in the process of being terraformed. Terraforming technology was the Gurn's principal export, and directly related to this visit. The Gurn process involved a novel but not irreproducible life-building machine that converted inorganic environments into organic environments, as long as the planet being terraformed was in the habitable zone to begin with. But the machine worked by consuming a very special carbon-plus construct that the rest of the galaxy had taken to calling Unobtanium. The structure was unique, and a multi-step process to generate Unobtanium in quantity was the Gurn's most closely guarded secret. Terraforming a single planet in a reasonable amount of time could take hundreds of thousands of machines and many tons of Unobtanium. And oh, the Gurn made everyone pay for the Unobtanium. Pay and pay and pay. Nobody dared to attack the Gurn worlds directly, for fear of destroying the secret of Unobtanium, but plenty of nefarious folks are happy to attack Gurn ships and take the finished product. So, 10 years ago, the Gurn made a deal with the humans. The humans at the time were on the cusp of solving the riddle of FTL, but were hampered by their constant infighting. This, ironically enough, was exactly what attracted the Gurn to the humans. The Gurn sucked at fighting, while the humans made exceptional mercenaries. The endothermic and aggressive humans were always ready to brawl, and could repel borders with little to no warning. The original contract had been simple. The humans got 1 terraforming machine and 1 kilogram of Unobtanium. In exchange, the humans provided mercenaries for 20 ships a year for 10 years. The 10 years are up, and Tshirt was here to negotiate a new contract. The general consensus among the Gurn, much like every other technologically advanced society, was that anybody less advanced must be less intelligent, as opposed to, say, simply not having discovered the technology in question yet. And thus the pre-FTL humans were considered by and large to be dumb as posts. But Tshirt had doubts. During the initial negotiations, the humans had given up the offer of the secret of FTL in favour of a single terraforming machine. A lot of Gurn saw that as evidence of how stupid humans were, but Gurn observed that the humans gambled, correctly, that FTL was common knowledge, and just having humans on Gurn ships would eventually give them the clues they needed. The gamble worked, and humans achieved their first FTL flight just 2 years after signing the initial contract. As the Tidal Slime worked his way into the gravity well of Sol, on his way to Sol-Free, Tshirt initiated a survey of the planets and moons of the system to determine their suitability for terraforming, as was standard practice for any Gurn ship entering the system. Business was business, and the constant search for opportunities was second nature. But Tshirt was troubled. Sol 2, the planet humans called Venus, was not in tolerance, given the survey conducted 10 years ago. In fact, it looked like it was several years into a massive terraforming event. Atmospheric pressure was down 10%, and since it showed a constant carbon ashfall consistent with massive upper atmospheric carbon condensation, how could the humans have done that with just 1 machine and 1 kilogram of Unobtanium? As the Tidal Slime neared Earth, it requested a landing at Geneva for the trade negotiations, as had been the pattern 10 years earlier. Tshirt was surprised when they were diverted instead to middle-of-nowhere Wyoming, a third of the way around the planet. His mystification increased when he realized that the accommodations being offered were, well, sparse, to put it bluntly. Compared to what Tshirt was accustomed to, Geneva is a shithole, and northeastern Wyoming is a shithole in comparison to Geneva. It is dry, barren, and not at all like the lush, warm swamps of home. Tshirt was driven a considerable distance from the landing site to an administrative building of some kind, and then into a conference room where one whole wall was obscured by a curtain. The current spokesperson for Earth, a sketchy title for a divided planet, but you work with what you have, Mr. Mohammed Anderson apologized for the rustic accommodations, and then launched right into a dialogue. "Forgive my abruptness, Mr. Tshirt, but we, humans and Gurn, have an existential crisis. Are you able to approve treaties yourself, or do you take them back to your government for approval?" "They have to be approved by our council, but if the Director of the Republic approves, then the council usually follows along." "That will have to do. I must convince you of the severity of the situation so that you can adequately inform the Director of the Republic. It is imperative that Earth and the Gurn work hand in hand on this, or you're both doomed." This was not the meeting that Tshirt was expecting, and he was flying blind, as they say. Please, you are talking in hyperbole. What exactly is the crisis that we face? Did you happen to notice Venus as you came in? Yes, I wanted to ask you about that. It seems quite different from the time of our last visit. Mr. Anderson looked hard at Tshirt. How many of your life-building machines would it take to account for the difference? How much unobtanium? Tshirt had been marketing the machines for a long time, and had a pretty good feel for scale. I don't know, maybe 9,000 machines consuming 90 tons of unobtanium over 7 years. Mr. Anderson pulled out a calculator. Yeah, that's about right. We use 20,000 machines and 16,000 tons of unobtanium over 5 years, but our machines are not as efficient as yours, and our unobtanium is not as consistent as yours. Tshirt was flummoxed. Your machines? Your unobtanium? How? Nobody in the entire galaxy has been able to reproduce our processes. Well, that's the thing, said Mr. Anderson. Reverse engineering the machines wasn't so hard. We don't understand why the machine works, but we can build the components. Well, most of them. We did a black box analysis of your control system and used our own computing technology, but I'm told plumbing was pretty straightforward. The real issue was the unobtanium. Why don't you tell me what you think unobtanium is, and then I will tell you why we, collectively, have a problem. Tshirt cranked up the heat in his envirosuit. The better to think faster. Unobtanium is predominantly carbon with traces of other organic elements. What makes it special is the way the carbon is organized. See, in organic compounds, carbon tends to be in long chains, while in mineral compounds, the carbon is a lattice. But in unobtanium, the carbon is in interlocking rings. It is a structure not found in nature, and very difficult to manufacture. The multi-step process is very secret, and I am not privy to it. So how in the stars did you do it? With that, a native Mr. Anderson opened the curtains at the side of the conference room, exposing a vast vista of black and brown rock. Moving about, from the foreground to the horizon, were giant trucks that looked like mere ants against the scale of the scene. Mr. Anderson pulled a fist-sized chunk of black material out of his pocket, and set it on the table in front of Tshirt. What you call unobtanium, we call bituminous coal, and it did form naturally on Earth. The mine before you produces almost 110 million tons a year, and has over 10 years of reserves to dig. It is one of many such mines around the planet. On Earth, unobtanium is literally dirt cheap, and we burn it to make steam. Tshirt was in shock, trying to take in the scene in front of him. We're ruined. The Gurn economy will collapse, and the Gurn, no longer essential to the rest of the galaxy, will be easy pickings for any expansionist species. That is to say, all of them. We are dead. The human, Mr. Anderson, looked at Tshirt sadly. Not just you. If the rest of the galaxy finds out we have unobtanium just lying on the ground, how long do you think humans will last? They will drive us to extinction and claim the mines for themselves. Mr. Anderson paused and took a breath. But there is a way. A way? Asked Tshirt. Mr. Anderson pulled up a chart outlining the humans' proposal. 1. The Gurn quarantine Earth so no other species visit us and find our dirty secret. 2. We humans supply cheap unobtanium exclusively to the Gurn. You act as our front, and market our unobtanium to the galaxy through your network of contacts as you have always done, at the same prices as you have always done, to avoid raising questions. The Gurn and the humans split the considerable profits half and half. 3. We use our half of the profits to buy technology from everybody else. Again, we go exclusively through the Gurn. It is useful that everybody else continues to think of us as dumb mercenaries not worth a closer look. 4. Since we would raise questions if the humans started expanding through the galaxy on our own, all future colonies will be joint human-Gurn colonies. This way we stay close, and everybody else will see the Gurn and not the humans. It's elementary game theory. The only way either of us come out of this alive is for both of us to go all in together. I don't understand, said Tshirt. How can unobtanium form naturally? Earth is a messed up planet, explained Mr. Anderson. From 300 million to 100 million years ago, much of the landmass of the planet was covered by warm swamps. Vegetation fell into the anaerobic water, and instead of decaying into soil, fermented into something we call peat. Then all this peat got buried in a series of cataclysmic events, meteors, volcanoes, you name it. Conditions were just the right temperature, somewhere in the 270 degrees centigrade range, and very high pressure necessary to convert the carbon from long organic strands into rings. The whole process took millions of years instead of the comparatively instantaneous methods of your labs, but the final result is that we are sitting on about 1.6 billion tons of unobtanium. The final result, said Tshirt, is that we work together or we both die. I will take your proposal to the Director of the Republic, but in the meantime, can you please stop burning the most valuable commodity in the galaxy, just so you can boil some water?